So I'm originally from Arkansas. When I was very young, I lived in a neighborhood that had a lot of families from all different parts of the world. All my friends were from different countries. Then when I was 9, we moved to a very rural part of Arkansas. All of a sudden, all of our neighbors were white and they were very country. I started seeing a lot of stereotypes played out that I had heard, but I always thought, well, that's not really true. It's just something people say. I was one of 7 children. I was the second oldest, and we were all homeschooled. It gave me a lot of time to pursue hobbies, music. My parents couldn't always afford lessons, so usually if I was wanting to learn a certain instrument, they would give me about 3 months of lessons, and then I was on my own.
I was born in the Middle East. My parents were from India. They still are there. I moved around quite a bit. Went to a boarding school when I was younger, with my sister too. Moved to Arkansas, and now I'm up here. Growing up, my sister and I, we were born and raised in the Middle East. We spent a lot of time there, got to meet a lot of different people, a lot of different cultures. Born and raised, of course, a Catholic, Roman Catholic, and then, of course, over the years, sort of got to know God. So my parents were instrumental in raising us, right? They instilled in us sort of this culture of, work hard and do well. And, by their sacrifices, we were able to, do better in life than they were, which is good. We met during the college years at church and at a life group. One day after a lunch date with the group, we just started to hang out. So, and she wouldn't go out with me, so that's why we're married, I guess.
So I homeschool our son, Liam. He's 6. I also teach online classes at a university, and I do some writing on the side.
I'm an engineer. I help fix problems.
Yeah, the current discussion on race is important to me, especially as I'm trying to explain aspects of it to my very astute child and answer questions for him that I don't fully understand. Like, he was learning about Rosa Parks in school, and he was asking me how someone could start a revolution by sitting down. My son gets a very deep tan in the summertime, and he looks much more like his dad, whereas in the wintertime it fades and he looks more like me. So as I'm explaining this to him, he goes, "Oh, so you mean in the summertime I'd have to sit in the back with Daddy, and in the wintertime I would have to sit in the front with you, Mommy?" I was like, yeah, basically. When we announced that we were getting married and we started telling people at our church, we had so many people come up to us and tell us that we were not supposed to get married. And I would say, "Okay, well, why do you say that?" And they were like, "Oh, just you're not. God told me you're not supposed to get married." We had finished our marriage counseling and everything. We were just counting down the days to the wedding. So we went back to our pastor and was like, actually, I think they called us in because so many people were telling them that we shouldn't be getting married. And they just kind of said, "We don't really know. We feel really good about you guys getting married. We don't have any concerns." I think it took us a few years to really realize that it was basically a racial thing. I don't think there weren't very many multiracial marriages at that time in our church. So there were quite a few after. So I like to feel like we kind of blazed the trail on that one. When I met Arnold, he told me he was from the Middle East, so I thought that meant he was Middle Eastern. So I was very surprised when I found out right before the wedding that he was Indian. And we actually had a lot of trouble getting his family to come for our wedding. They tried and were rejected for visas multiple times. And eventually, with the help of a senator and some notarized letters, we were able to get visas for his parents, but his sister was not able to come. She was not able to attend the wedding. When we've traveled to other countries and other parts of the world, sometimes we've had trouble with Arnold getting pulled out in the airport for random screening.
Actually, it's every time.
Yeah, but this one particular trip, I think it happened 5 times in a row. They would always tell me, "You go ahead, ma'am, you're fine, you go on." And I'm like, he has my passport. I cannot go on without him. I mean, that's upsetting when things like that happen. And Arnold was always so calm, but I was like, "Why aren't you angry?" What he said to me was, "You get used to it." And I was just like, no, we don't get used to this.
So you have to be very careful on when to rise up and say something and when not to. So we know God is with you, right? So that's why you have to be confident that He will take care of you. If you go against principalities, you'll be in for a shocker. You won't make a change, but you will pay for it. In those instances, they could have just taken me away. They probably never see me again, or they could have done other stuff. I mean, there are ways to fight, and sometimes you can't just always fight,
All of this realization has come through time. We've been together for 19 years, married for 17 and a half. It's been a journey, and it's been a lot of deep discussions, having these experiences and then talking about them and saying, where do we go from here? How do we process this as a family, as believers? This is not just an American problem, and it's not a simple problem. And it's not just a matter of telling people to change. Biases are deep-rooted, and they come from how we're raised, and sometimes we are not even aware of them until something happens that makes us cognizant of that bias. I think a very practical step going forward is for all of us to examine our hearts and ask ourselves, why do we believe the things we believe? Do I have biases that I'm not aware of? And just search your heart, and I have to search my heart just in all areas of life.
How do you tackle this, right? I mean, there is a problem, and it's not just a problem with race. There's a problem all over the place. Gender, religion, I'd say sexual orientation, whatever you want to think about, right? Really, it's your walk with God, right? When you walk with God, you have these conversations with Him, and He will tell you, He will point out things to you. And that's why, I think this emotional, healthy spirituality and relationship courses are good, because help me ask God the right questions. When you come across anyone, be glad for what you see, but also be aware of all the things that you don't see, because that makes the whole person. I just wish that we are more proactive thinking through this. And all I go back to is, again, do you want to be like Christ, or you don't want to be like Christ?
We are Arnold and Natalie Rago.
And we are Voices of NC4.